Hey Internet, it's Aaron, your personal driver, and today we're going to talk about Uber versus Lyft. We're going to cover three things. One, who you should drive for, Uber or Lyft. Two, the fundamental differences between Uber and Lyft. And three, who's going to win the war between Uber and Lyft. The answer may surprise you, so hang around to the end. Right, because Google...
Information, proprietary information.
Mystro! If this is your first time here, welcome. I do rideshare tips every Monday. Every Wednesday I have a new driver live stream. You can ask me anything on the live stream if you have a question as a new driver. And every Friday and Saturday at 10 p.m. Pacific time, I do in-car live streams so you can see what it's like to do an Uber drive or a Lyft drive, or you can just hang out and chat. Some people like to do that. So if that's something that interests you, make sure that you hit the subscribe down on the bottom there, and make sure you hit the dumb YouTube icon bell, because that way you will be informed whenever I upload a video or am doing a live stream. If it's not your first time here, welcome back. Don't forget to hit thumbs up and leave a comment in the description. Tell me, do you drive for Uber or Lyft, or just one or the other? Okay, so if I'm being honest, right now, this very segment, there isn't a whole lot of difference between Uber and Lyft. So historically, like for the last 4 or 5 years, the answer has been super easy. The best company to drive for is Lyft. And it wasn't even close. It was Lyft by a long shot. So if you remember, Uber just did in-app tipping. That's a new thing for Uber, but Lyft has been doing that ever since. I mean, it's been since the beginning of Lyft that you've been able to tip in the app. I did a video, I'll put the picture right here, of what it looks like if it hasn't come to your market yet. But most places should have in-app tipping, and it will be there very shortly if it isn't there now. Because historically, Uber really hasn't been very driver friendly. In fact, until this lawsuit with Google came around, preventing them from going to driverless cars, they've actually kind of been at war with drivers and hated the drivers. Lyft, on the other hand, has slowly but steadily gotten worse, but has come from a historic place of loving the drivers. So the reason people really like Lyft over Uber is because, one, the customer base who use Lyft tend to tip more. So you can easily get you know, $200 in tips a week on Lyft. That's not an exaggeration. In fact, let's see if I can find it. If I can find it, I'll put it right here. I made $99 in tips in, I think, 36 hours when I was doing Lyft. And that doesn't even include cash. That was just in-app tipping. So customers that use Lyft regularly tend to tip more. I'm not sure why, just probably because they've been doing it for years and years now, whereas Uber's used to not tipping, so those customers are slowly learning and slowly getting there, right? In addition to tipping, what drivers, especially full-time drivers, really like about Lyft is the power driver bonus. Now that's a fancy way of saying if you do a certain amount of rides and you have a certain acceptance rate, you'll get money, right? You'll get additional money. It used to be percentage based, which was why it was, if you're a full-time driver, you would be dumb to drive for anyone other than Lyft. Because it was just 25%. Well, it's stacked, right? It's like 15%, 20%, and 25% depending on how many rides you do. Like back in the day, 2 or 3 years ago, you used to be able to make $2,000 or $3,000 a week. That's not an unheard of amount of money. Like people were making that because the rates were so high. Lyft has obviously lowered their rates as Uber has dropped their rates. But you know, historically, you can make $2,000 a week with Lyft, get a 25% bonus, and get all your tips, right? So you're looking at $500, $600, sometimes $700 extra just from tips and power drive bonus. So for those of you long-time drivers who've been doing it for years now, you remember Uber used to do hourly guarantees, but like they made it just hard enough to meet the requirement that you never ever make the hourly guarantee, right? Like they make like a minimum of 4 rides. So between 9 and 10, if you did 4 rides, you get $40 that hour. However, Uber would still take 25% from that $40, right? So they would take $10. So really you're making $30 an hour. And they would make sure that they would only offer it just a little bit out of reach. And what I mean by that is if historically it was very easy to get 4 rides, then they would make it 4.5 because it's hard to get 5. On top of that, if you got 1 rider that canceled or 1 rider that drove too far out of like the area, then you're done because you're not gonna be able to get your 4 rides. So it was really hard to get the incentives that Uber offered. So It just made more sense to stick with Lyft. It was a better money and it's easier to get the incentives. Then what happened was Lyft got into the hourly guarantee with Uber, only they lowered it to 2 rides, so it was a lot easier to get the Lyft bonus. And Uber got really mad about that, so they dropped the bonus to 1.5 rides per hour. Woo! Because you can't do half a ride. So, I mean, obviously, it's 2 rides, they just want to sound fancy. And that was great back in the day because both Uber and Lyft were offering hourly guarantees. So it was really easy. You just took 2 rides with Uber, then you took 2 rides with Lyft, and you'd get 2 hourly bonuses, and then you'd be making like 80 bucks an hour. Well, those days are gone. Uber now does Boost, which I think is overall better than the hourly guarantee. Well, now with Boost, it's just pretty much easy. It's like getting a surge, guaranteed surge, in a certain area at a certain time. So you can play the Boost game all day long and then always be making extra money. It's actually a really good system. I like Boost. I think that they should definitely continue doing that. So Lyft has kind of sort of done some Boost. They call them power zones. It's not as good as Uber, but on some days during some events, you can make some pretty good money going to the power zones with Lyft. The problem is, over time, see, Uber started down here as like the worst company, the most terrible company to work for, and they've slowly got better. And Lyft started way up here as way better, like the best company ever to work for. And they've slowly gotten worse. So now they're almost even. And honestly, it doesn't even really make too much of a difference. I would still say at this moment, by a small margin, Lyft is the better company to drive for than Uber. But I mean, the difference between the two companies are not that big anymore. Especially now that Travis is out as CEO. We have a new CEO in Uber who's actually a really great guy. He's from Expedia. It's right down the corner from us. It's in Bellevue, Washington. He did a great job there. I mean, so he's gonna be able to probably drive the company more towards profitability and have a better employee relationships, right? And this 180 days of change really has done some things to make Uber better than it was. But remember, all the things Uber is doing, Lyft already did. Like, there's no difference now. Lyft has already had things like tipping forever. It's just the problem is, Lyft has decided that they're gonna head towards profitability because both Uber and Lyft right now are running at a loss every quarter. So to do that, they're cutting back on things like the Power Drive bonus. The Power Drive bonus is no longer percentage based. It's just a flat fee, which is not as good for drivers. When it was percentage based, you could make a really big bonus, but now it doesn't really matter. Furthermore, they've increased the minimum requirements to get Power Driver bonus. So a lot of drivers, it's not even worth it because you're not going to get it anymore, even if you're full-time. Especially since Lyft is slower than Uber in most markets. I mean, there's an exception to that. Like places like Portland, for example, Lyft is so busy that you'd be crazy not to have it. But in most markets, Uber is going to be busier and, you know, have more customers than Lyft in it. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the actual app. Okay, so there's a lot of fighting amongst the Lyft and Uber people, especially on online forums, as to which app is better. I mean, if you ask me personally, it's going to be Uber hands down. Uber put more money into their app. You can do more things with the app. As a driver, you have more options, you know, to report things. It's easier to get cleaning fees, that kind of stuff. Lyft's app is just simple. It's outdated. The formula is super basic. But a lot of people like that, especially customers, because it's not complicated, it's pretty easy. Since the app is so like amateur and so basic on Lyft, it's not confusing. So it's easy for the average consumer to understand, and it's hard for drivers to screw it up. I mean, it's as basic as it gets. But for those of us drivers who have been doing this for a long time and are used to the app, the Uber app is just better for drivers because there's more you can do with it. And if you're comfortable with it and you've been doing it long enough, you know the tricks of the trade, there's so much more you can do with Uber's app because it's more powerful. So, the conclusion to part one, who should you drive for? Well, this is gonna sound dumb and you're gonna get mad at me, so go ahead and leave all the hate comments below, whatever. But really, honestly, you should be driving for both. At this point, they're the same exact company. And choosing one over the other is silly. You're just losing income, especially with Mystro. If you have Mystro, it automatically switches between the two apps. It picks the best ride for you and turns the other app off. So back in the day, like when I used to do Lyft and Uber back in the day, you used to have two phones, an Uber phone and a Lyft phone. And you'd watch both, and when Uber was going on surge, you turn off your Lyft, and when Lyft was going on prime time, you turn off your Uber, but all that stuff is gone. Now you can just do Mystro and it switches back and forth for you. But if you had to ask, like if you were like, put a gun to my head right now, I was like, you're a personal driver, Who should you drive for, Uber or Lyft? You can only pick one. At this point, I'd pick Uber. And I know it's gonna make me really sad. This is the first time I've ever said that. So for years and years and years, I have always said, drive for Lyft. Lyft is better, Lyft is better, Lyft is better. And honestly, it wasn't close. Lyft always was better than Uber. But right now, the companies are about the same. The power driver bonus isn't that great. And now that Uber is rolling out Boost, what that means is they're just raising your profit, right? They're just raising extra money for you. If you get a 1.5 Boost, I mean, for a lot of you guys, your wages are about $1 a mile. That's a 50-cent bump in pay. That's a lot of money at 1.5 Boost. So Uber is putting a little bit more money in their drivers' pockets. Lyft is still better for tipping. Like customers who use Lyft, they're more relaxed, they're younger, they're more tech savvy, and they're used to tipping, so they tip more. So yeah, you still get tipped more on Lyft than you do with Uber, but that will change over time once customers who use Uber get used to tipping, because you used to not be able to do it. So a year from now, a year and a half from now, it'll be, if you tip on Lyft, you're gonna tip on Uber, there'll be no difference. Okay, so part 2 of this video. What's the fundamental difference between Uber and Lyft? And this is gonna come down to a cultural thing. So this has more to do with an experiment, if you will, on how to run a company, right? Like, what is the goal of your corporation? What do you want to do? Uber is an international corporate giant who cares about nothing at all except for destroying and disrupting the current marketplace, okay? Uber was never founded to make money. Uber's goal was never ever to turn a profit. Uber started with one thing in mind: kill the taxi cab company. Now they don't say it outright, but they say a little bit of things like, oh, we were upset with the taxi cab company. There was a need that we saw that we wanted to fill. You know, taxi cab companies are old, we want to innovate, blah, 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 blah. That's all code for they wanted to destroy all transportation, and so that you had to rely on Uber. They want to eliminate taxi cab companies, they want to eliminate buses, they want to eliminate trains, okay? That's the whole goal. They're trying to make their product so cheap that it is financially stupid for you to even own your own car. The average car payment, depending on if you put money down or not, or if you're leasing, is between $400 and $600, plus around $100 for insurance. Obviously, these things vary depending on what part of the country you live in. You tack on gas, you tack on parking fees, you tack on driving tickets and stress, and you're looking around, you know, like $800 to $900 a month to operate a vehicle. So if you spend $400 in Uber a month, that's $100 a week, you're saving money in transportation. And you don't have a vehicle that depreciates in value. That's what Uber's goal is to do, is for you to stop using public transit, stop using taxis, and stop even buying cars. And the way Uber has done that in the past and is still continuing to do that is to lose money. That's why they get all this venture capital from all these other suckers who pour money into Uber. The reason they're doing that is because for every dollar Uber makes, they've lost 40 to 60 cents. Okay, so think about that. If you make $100 on Uber, you put $100 in your pocket, that means that you should have put $140 to $160 in your pocket, because that's what Uber needs you to make to be even. If you have a $1,000 week on Uber, that should be a $1,600 week. That means Uber's lost $600 for you getting that $1,000. Right now, it's financially irresponsible not to use Uber. That's how cheap it is. And that's also why Uber is so corrupt. That's why they have all these lawsuits. That's why they keep doing these programs like Grayball and the Hell program, etc., etc. They don't care about making money, they don't care about the law, they don't care about the rules. They have one goal, and that's disruption. They want to disrupt the current marketplace, and they want to make people addicted to their products. They're creating a need that wasn't there before Uber. That's basically, in a nutshell, what Uber wants to do. Make people have a rideshare need that they never had before and just obliterate the marketplace. So you're saying, well, what's the end game? If you never make any money, what's the end game? What's the end goal? Uber wanted to actually, by next year, 2018, have an entirely autonomous, driverless fleet, so that customers who are already addicted to Uber would get in a car without a driver and drive around. Uber would own the car, have no need to pay any drivers any money, and make all that money. Autonomous cars were, at the point, Uber was planning to make a profit. That's what they pitched to all these venture capitalists, all these morons who put all this money into Uber so that Uber could subsidize their marketplace, was because by 2018 they were going to be the only company in the whole United States who had autonomous cars making money every single mile at these low rates. Gone would be the days of waiting for the bus. Gone would be the days of getting a train ticket. Gone would be the days of taxi cabs and rideshare. You'd push a button on your phone, boop boop. An autonomous car would show up to your house. You'd get in the autonomous car, you go to work. End of story. You want to take a car across the country, push a button, boop. Autonomous car will take you from Seattle to Los Angeles, all the way to Florida if you wanted to. That was the business model, the business plan of Uber. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and I'm going to back up and go to Lyft. Lyft is owned in part by Microsoft, okay, which is a pretty competent company. Lyft saw what Uber was doing and thought that they would piggyback on them because they said, we don't have the money to compete with Uber in these marketplaces that don't have rideshare. But they would let Uber establish itself in a marketplace and then Lyft would come in. Essentially, all the money it costs to pave the road to rideshare in a new market, they would let Uber spend the money on. In other words, they'd let people get addicted to the app before they got into the marketplace. And once Uber got established somewhere, Lyft would come walking in right behind them on their coattails and offer a superior product. The same price, basically, to take a Lyft as it is to take an Uber. So it doesn't really matter as a consumer which one you take. But with Lyft, you got higher quality vehicles, you got higher quality drivers, and you got a more functional company, especially when Uber got into all this trouble with their sexual harassment scandals and their trouble with lawsuits and legality. Lyft would come in and say, we're the moral company, we're the moral high ground. If you don't want to give your money to this evil corporation of Uber, you want to be a good consumer, choose Lyft. And you can see that reflect in Lyft's current marketing model where they say, how you get there is important, right? That's why they have all these commercials out on the internet and stuff. Like, it's how you get there that's important, not just how, not just getting there. So that's why Lyft historically has always been super nice to the drivers, because they were trying to peel off drivers from Uber one at a time. The requirements to be an Uber driver are almost non-existent, but there are legitimate requirements to drive for Lyft. I mean, driving for Lyft is harder than it is to drive for Uber because the background check is harder, right? They actually do real vehicle inspections. They offer a better product to the consumer. If you're a consumer and you're worried about safety, you should always take a Lyft. Because Uber drivers are stabbing people and molesting people and raping people left and right. I'll put some articles here, but they pop up all the time. Because right now Uber's even hiring people who have criminal backgrounds. They don't care who drives for them, they just need people to get in the car. Lyft, however, does real work to make sure that their drivers are competent enough. So if you don't like your Lyft driver, realize that that driver is still 100 times better than the average Uber driver. That's just a hashtag fact. Hashtag fact. And then what happened was this year, once all this scandal happening, Lyft saw a real opportunity to not only gain market share, but leapfrog Uber, and that's what they've done. So Lyft is now experimenting with autonomous cars, and so they've changed their kind of end game. They've changed their plan. That's why they've gotten worse and worse with drivers, is because they're trying to cut costs around the corners and refocus the company into a new direction that they originally didn't start with. So that's the background of each company and the fundamental difference between the two, okay? And you can see it all coming to a head right now. So that leads us to the third question, is who's gonna win the war between Uber and Lyft? And I'm telling you right now, the war is already over, it's done. Everybody pack up and go home. Lyft has already won. I just want you to know that the shots have already been fired, there's already been a war going on, and it's over. The Lyft has won. Uber will go down in the annals of history as the first trailblazing rideshare company, but people will not use the Uber app here soon. I'm telling you guys that right now. Mark it down. Tell me how dumb I am in the comments, but I'm telling you right now, at the end of this game, Lyft is gonna win, and that's it. We're all done. The story's over. Okay, so why will Lyft win? Well, remember, the goal to profitability is through autonomous cars. Now in Japan, they've already done it. Autonomy is already happening in Japan. I forget if Japan has the 2018 or the 2020 Olympics, but whenever that rolls around, in 2018, during the Olympics, you won't be able to get a person in a car at a taxi. All the taxis are gonna be autonomous. They're already there. There are actually hotels right now in Japan that they don't have any actual people working there. The hotel is automated, from the front desk people to the concierge to the in-house food delivery system. It's all automated by some kind of robotic entity. So the technology is already here. It's just that no company in the United States has been able to harness it, because all these autonomous companies are real secretive about their technology, because they don't want everyone to be able to do it. If you're the only company in town that has autonomous vehicles, you're the only company in town that's gonna make money off it. So it's really important that you keep everything secret. You know, honestly, at the beginning, I don't think Lyft was even interested in autonomous cars. I mean, they might have dabbled in it or researched it, but they didn't have any desire for it. They couldn't do it anyway. So what changed? What threw Uber off the path of profitability, and what put Lyft on it? Well, it was trying to screw over Google. That was the mistake that will go down as what took Uber down. So what Uber did was they stole a bunch of proprietary information from Google. See, Google already has autonomous cars. They're all around the world. They're like these little small cars, are like super compact, and on top they have like a big camera that's 360 degrees. That's how Google maps everything for their Google Maps products and their Google World product, right? They send these autonomous vehicles out and about, and they film everything. So Uber thought they were gonna skip all the hard part of research and engineering and just take that from Google. Well, Google sued Uber, and a judge has basically said, yeah, until this is solved, Uber can't make autonomous vehicles. At least not with the information they stole from Google. So I guess Uber can start from scratch and try to make up the ground. But they can't have autonomous cars now, certainly not by 2018. In fact, the division of autonomous cars in Uber has been such a disaster that they can't drive autonomously by themselves. All of their tests have been just market failures. This is where Lyft got smart. They changed their business model once they found out about the lawsuit. And now they're rolling out, right now, autonomous vehicles across the country. Lyft has its own fleet, it's brand new, and a lot of them are electric cars, which is gonna improve their profitability even more, because they're Chevy Bolts, which means they get 250 miles. So that means Lyft has autonomous cars without a need to pay a driver, and they're not gonna have to pay for gas. And they're driving around right now. I think the markets are San Francisco and Pittsburgh, but I'll put here somewhere the article about more specifically what they are if you want to look into it. And the final straw that broke the camel's back hasn't happened yet. So there's a chance that this won't go through, but everywhere they're reporting right now that Google is gonna invest $1 billion in Lyft. If that's true, that's it. All you venture capitalists who put your money in Uber, you're not going to see a cent of that money. That money is gone. Google always wins. End of story. They always have one. I mean, if they're going to back Lyft, if that's the horse they're going to back, and this deal does go through and is finalized, we're all going to be getting in all autonomous, all electric vehicles from Lyft, and they're going to be the first rideshare company to turn a profit. Uber won't be able to compete. They're going to shut down. All those venture capitalists, they're done. They won't see a cent of that money. They've wasted all their money in Uber. And Google, Microsoft, and Lyft going forward are going to be the only ones who are making money in the rideshare company. And that'll be the end of the game. Uber's going to go down in history basically like Yahoo and AOL, right? So back in the day, America Online was the only way to get online. And the only search engine you had was Yahoo. If you wanted to find something on the internet, you used Yahoo. But then what happened? Google came in and they said, no, son, you're not doing it right. We'll show you how to do it. And now the #1 search engine is Google. The second search engine is YouTube, right? So people are using YouTube as a search engine more than they're using Yahoo right now. The third is actually Amazon, which is a company that sells you stuff, right? So then after that, all the other browsers are fighting, right? Like Microsoft and Yahoo and stuff like that. But Yahoo used to be Uber back in the day. That's who they were. They were the only business in town. They were, if you wanted to have an email account, you had a Yahoo account. If you wanted to search for something on the internet, you used a Yahoo. But they didn't do it right. They didn't provide the service for the customers that was good. And so Google came in and did it right. And you know what? Google's gonna come into the rideshare arena and they're gonna do it right, and that's why Lyft has the advantage. And going forward, that's why Lyft is gonna win. So, you heard it first. Uber will never reach profitability. It'll never have a quarter where it makes money. It will consistently lose money until venture capitalists stop giving it money. Lyft is also losing money right now. But Lyft will be the first rideshare company to have a quarterly profit and will start making money. I said it first, you heard it here. Go ahead and give me all the hate you want to down there in the comments. But we'll see who's right. Bam. Deuces, I'm out. Hey guys, I hope you liked that video. If you did, go ahead and hit like, thumbs up, and go ahead and leave a comment and subscribe. You hit this button here. There are also going to be 2 videos here and here if you'd like to watch some more. And don't forget to hit the little bell icon that you have on your YouTube so you can get updates when I leave them. Thanks guys, bye.